Hey there, Stuart. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. Over the last year, you've supported this channel and I'm so glad that you were on board. And I've been putting up some crazy content. Some of them, many people didn't like, some people actually liked it. But there are a lot of other pieces of information that you truly enjoyed. Now, leave me a comment here if you find that there's something that you want me to talk about, because I can talk about a lot of things, but it does seem like I haven't had the opportunity to get in touch with many of you. So please leave me a comment about what you'd like to see further in this channel and I'll do my best to get it all out. Now, what I've discovered is that a lot of people who are on this channel are really curious about the power of persuasion and influence, right? Communication in general, neuro-linguistic programming, all of these are fantastic places to establish a frame of mind around building up your own sense of influence and power. Now, I've spoken at length to many entrepreneurs. I always tell them that there are 3 reasons why they start a business. To cash out, that means to build it to sell, to turn it into a cash cow, which is to continue to let it run, but to allow it to earn passive income for you. And the last one, it is clout. And I believe that the last one is the most underestimated one of all. Why? Because let's put it this way. Imagine you are just fresh out of college and you're about to get into the workforce. But when you get into the workforce, the reason why you get the job is because people recognize you or people know the people who want you in the company. Now that makes for a completely different dynamic, isn't it? You become more influential, you become, at the top of your game, but there must be some way for you to reach there. There are so many people who've arrived there, and I definitely would encourage any one of you to attempt, at least, to go out and build your influence. Why? Because in 20 years' time, I might need yours. So let's put it in context in terms of the way by which I think I would go about establishing my clout wherever I go. So the starting point is to get really good at a skill set that people want. So you got to start thinking about the much bigger picture. What are people willing to pay a lot of money for, but you can provide in an instant? So for example, I happen to have very good speaking skills right now because I've developed it over the last 20 years. If you'd approached me about 20 years ago, I don't think I would have had the same level of capability to be able to do what I do today. So sometimes if I have a friend in the corporate world, it's easier for me to establish a connection, establish friendships so that I will be able to create a platform for myself, but at the same time, do my friend a favor. I've done that several times, and all I can say is it's helped me to deepen the relationship between myself and that other person who has his or her own network that establishes his or her value in terms of that network, right? So if you've got clout and someone else has clout, the both of you are going to establish a stronger network together, especially if you're willing to win together. So always get good at something that other people will find it difficult to do. And what I also found was not just the speaking thing, because there are so many trainers and speakers out there nowadays. My biggest superpower is really the process of healing, right? The mind, the body, the soul. And what dawned on me is that there are a lot of people who would pay for it, but the value of my delivery is far greater than the actual dollar amount that anybody can charge. For example, if I gave this top entrepreneur peace of mind, that's priceless, isn't it? If I could help somebody to change his or her relationship with his parents if they were estranged, that would be great, wouldn't it? If I could help save a relationship, a marriage, wouldn't that be awesome? And what I've come to realize is that by getting so good at the psychological elements of human behavior, it puts me in a better position to read other people and to allow myself to be used. So there was a post I put on Facebook where I said, people make use of me and I love it. And it's true. You got to get the right people who will make use of you in a manner that is also beneficial for you. Now, I don't mind helping anybody. The problem is sometimes the people whom I help aren't very grateful and they walk away thinking that, it's just an hour of his time, which by the way could be translated into $15,000 to the right person. But at the same time, I'm very mindful of testing out my relationships and seeing what kind of returns I get. It's like investing in stocks, right? You put a little bit of money in there, you see whether it grows. If it doesn't grow, it's okay. It's just an hour of time. You don't have to feel upset about it. So for me, I tend to do that. I've had people who outright lie to me, right? I've got people who are trying to utilize my presence as a means of justifying their position. And one of the things that I've come to realize is that there are so many people whom are doing the wrong things, like trying to get clout unethically by leveraging names. They take photographs, and what I encourage you to do is don't just be in the presence of people. See what you can do to help them, right? And even if you had to do it for free, go do it. Use this opportunity to demonstrate your capacity, your reliability, and your strengths. This is how you trade your skills and strengths and your character for a reliable and powerful network. So speaking of getting good at something, how do you actually get good at that thing? I know it sounds trite to tell you to go practice, go read more, go and meet more people, go and attend more networking, go get a coach and a mentor, whatever it might be. Yes, those are all good. However, nothing beats really studying. And what do I mean by studying? You grab 4 or 5 books of the same topic area. You want to study networking and persuasion? Get the top 5 books in networking and persuasion. Secondly, get several blank sheets of paper, turn them to a landscape, and then go at all of those 5 within an hour. I'm talking about flipping through those pages, making sure that you pick out the skeleton, the key elements. And then from that first sheet of paper, try to structure a knowledge base or key principles or pillars of that particular subject area. What I used to do was to go through every single one of them. I'll stop, I'll jot down some key pillars like, oh, this is an interesting category. Why? Because across those 5 books, hopefully they're quite different. Across those 5 books, my guess is that about 20% of those books are going to be unique to that book. The rest of them, if they're about the same topic area or same subject, you're likely to overlap, isn't it? So because of this overlap, what we are going to have to do is to consider what it means to look at the unique information from each book rather than all of it at the same time. I'm interested in the distinctions, right? The distinctions that made this book and that book different than each other. So as I go through this, I'll pull out those pillars. They become categories that I now focus on. It is a scaffold by which I can now throw additional information on top of it. And then I'll start reading every single book that I can, utilizing the scaffold. Nowadays, you have fantastic software like Mural, Miro, Collab Board, Concept Board. There's so many of these tools out there. Go get one, do yourself a favor, create a board, and then start mapping these concepts out. And the more you read it, the more you get expertise, right? So expertise isn't built by just suddenly erecting a fantastic city or a skyscraper. It doesn't happen that way. It happens by layers. And layer upon layer, you're going to develop yourself over and over and over again, so much so that one small distinction causes you to sound different than anybody else. And that is what makes you really, really valuable. So I've done that for so many different books. I've got tons of different kinds of mind maps, concept maps, and I really curate knowledge. Now, I know some of you must have read the book Second Brain by Tiago Forte. So go take a look at his methodology. You can utilize second brain concepts and put them on, let's say, a spreadsheet or a Notion or whatever kind of software that you have online these days. And that's still not good enough. You need to have a system of retracing your footsteps in a rapid fashion, preferably within chunks of 45 minutes to an hour. If you're unable to complete reading a book within 45 minutes, then you definitely need to learn that skill set. I happen to have that skill set, but I won't be talking about it now. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the accelerated expertise process, I'll be very happy to share, provided I've got enough comments down below. Just go down to the comments and type in, show me accelerated expertise, or something along those lines. Now, you have to understand, the knowledge that I have is something that anybody can accumulate, right? Then why doesn't anybody just go and learn? Well, very simply, there are some people that I've just discovered who are not learners. They don't read massive amounts of books. They don't keep track of the things that they learn. They don't dissect things to a T. And in my opinion, I think your ability to go incisively and say, under condition 1, this is the information that you should apply, and so on, it allows you to have a much broader control of the knowledge that can be applied. So if you happen to love learning, this is what you ought to do. If you don't particularly enjoy learning and it's not really a strength, you prefer to execute, then it might be better for you to get a coach whom you can ask questions to, and then you can get immediate reference from them so that you end up progressing because of what they are what they are telling you to do. So given this entire range of developing your professional and personal influence, there are things that are valuable that if you traded up with somebody who would spend time with you, giving you other kinds of information or giving you other kinds of know-how, you could trade. Now this is powerful because I personally have gotten into contact with certain people who shall not be named because they are generous and they are able to see the big picture. They definitely can see that by exchanging information, we can blossom together. We can have win-win structures and setups together. And this is very valuable because of the nature of how the world changes every 5 to 7 years. So I used to start off with a community. I had a large community online in internet marketing. That has kind of like fallen apart because I never ever thought I'd continue doing that due to my sense of short-sightedness. Yeah, I decided to carry out my next life in investing in my knowledge in things like leadership, teams, psychology, stuff like that. And suffice to say, that has served me very well. So I would advise anybody who wants to get good at professional influence to go and become a solid learner and use that to your advantage. In different networks, you'll also discover that there are different skill sets for different networks. So there are some individuals, for example, in my network, in business, I need to read a lot of business books. That's no doubt about it. I tend to avoid popular topics. Like, for example, when people said, oh, Atomic Habits was fantastic, I said, yeah, it's another popular book. But then I took the time to go read it and I realized how good it was, and that changed everything. That was not trying to guess the trend, right? To allow the market to inform me about what book is good to read and also to inform other people about those good books to read. So over a course of time, you'll realize that your network might switch. Like, for example, you might end up with business owners who are particularly spiritual in nature, and maybe you haven't even grabbed a copy of the Bible. Or there's a group of people who enjoy talking about soccer and the World Cup, which just kind of ended. So then if you're not a fan, how do you actually learn? How do you actually bring yourself to generate information surrounding those areas and make for useful conversation? Right? So a lot of all these things require the study of knowledge itself. So this is known as meta-knowledge or epistemology, where you actually study the nature of how people acquire knowledge in the first place. So I owe this debt of gratitude to knowledge acquisition because of Robert Dilts from Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and he's the guy who founded NLP University. Great guy. I love his stuff. And while it is a little bit complicated, it is complex enough for somebody like me who wants to know everything. So know everything, go find out different sources, compare these different sources, and then present them on a silver platter to people who just don't have time to do it. To a great extent, expanding knowledge simply makes you faster at expanding knowledge and exploiting it. So if you haven't already engaged with knowledge, you can't expand your knowledge. If you can't expand your knowledge, you can't exploit it. And as a result, you won't be able to use it as a form of currency, right? So in the past, think about it. Business owners hired other people because the new currency was not money, the new currency was time, right? Then later on, there was this competency revolution. So you wanted to hire smarter people, right? There's leverage in knowledge. That's why there's this coaching revolution where you go out to people who have a methodology of coaching, you try it out and you go, wow, that really works. That gave me some solid perspective in a very short span of time. So as you continue to go about your thinking, your way of living, you definitely want to elevate your knowledge in order to be able to offer this knowledge to other people. See whether you meet halfway as you're starting to expand your networking and going out and meeting people, and notice where the conversation resonates. Is it in some area of business? Is it in some area of art? Is it in some area of, I don't know, health or maybe even pet care, right? There's such a wide range. If you happen to know a little bit about it and it's intriguing for a majority of people that seem to be coming to you because of that, go study even more. Go read up the latest trends, because that can turn you into an information nexus that will enable them to only think of you whenever they think of that particular topic area. There are probably many other ways, but this is the way I would do it, right? I would find my zone of genius, I'll double down on the learning there, and then I'll develop my skills like crazy. I mean, If I could take all the money I wasted or lost in bad business ventures and put them back into learning, I would. I would go back in time, and that's exactly what I do. If I lost $200,000, I'll take that $200,000 since I was going to lose it anyway and invest it in learning. You know why? Because in a learning environment, that's exactly where you get to network. There are people in a learning network whom you ought to meet because you already share some commonality. So I hope this has been useful once again. If you found it valuable, please type in some comments. Let me know what you thought about it. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon. You know how it goes because this kind of stuff ought to be shared. And if you have friends whom you know need networking, share this with them. I know there are some difficulties with networking, but I'll cover that in another video, I promise. And this is where we'll continue to grow and expand this community of learners together on YouTube so that we can elevate ourselves to a level beyond suffering challenge and all that bad stuff, and also learn how to take effective actions for abundance. Till the next video, I'll see you.